What happens when a sitting president walks into one of America's most watched morning shows expecting friendly questions, and instead gets grilled in real time? What unfolded wasn't just another awkward TV interview. It was a masterclass in live tension, ego, and the exact moment when control of a conversation slips away, ending with an empty chair and a stunned studio crew. Before we dive into the details, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because trust me, you'll have plenty to say about how this one went down. Let's set the stage. The Today Show, Studio 1A, Rockefeller Center. It's a Tuesday morning, but the energy feels different. When a president, any president, sits down for a live national interview, everything changes. Security tightens. Producers run through their notes for the 15th time. Makeup artists stand ready. And at the center of it all, anchor Craig Melvin reviews his questions one last time. Craig isn't a pushover. He spent years at NBC covering everything from natural disasters to political scandals. He's sharp, deliberate, and always 2 steps ahead in a conversation. But this isn't just any guest. This is Donald Trump, a man who treats interviews like sparring matches and has no hesitation walking out when things don't go his way. The interview is scheduled for 8:15, right after the commercial break. Trump arrives exactly on time, a surprise for some, in his trademark dark suit and red tie. He's smiling, shaking hands with crew members, clearly in his element. Cameras, lights, audience, this is familiar territory. Craig greets him. They exchange pleasantries. Mics are clipped, lights adjusted. A producer counts down from 10. They're live. Craig opens with a smile and a polite introduction. Trump leans back, legs crossed, projecting confidence, maybe a little too much. The first few questions go as expected. Recent legislation, the economy, foreign policy. Trump delivers his usual broad, boastful answers. Many people are saying, everyone knows, standard stuff. But then, something shifts. Craig leans forward. His tone softens but sharpens at the same time. He moves from policy to something more personal, trust. He brings up polling numbers showing record-low confidence in government institutions. Carefully, he frames it as a concern, not an accusation. Mr. President, a lot of Americans are frustrated. They feel like they're not getting straight answers. How do you respond to that? Trump immediately pivots. Fake news, media lies. I'm the most transparent president ever. The usual defense. But Craig doesn't let it slide. He interrupts, a bold move. With all due respect, sir, I'm not talking about the media. I'm talking about trust. He starts citing examples, shifting explanations, inconsistent data, policy reversals. Each point is specific, factual, and clearly prepared in advance. Trump's smile tightens. His posture changes. He sits up defensive now. He tries to steer things back to accomplishments, the strong economy, record numbers. But Craig keeps pressing, calmly, methodically. He keeps bringing it back to one question. Why should Americans trust what they're hearing from your administration? That's when the tone in the room changes completely, and the real fireworks begin. Trump stops trying to answer the question, and instead turns the tables. He looks directly at Craig and asks if he's been talking to certain people, hinting that his questions were planted by political rivals. Then, with that trademark half-smirk, he says, Craig, come on. You're a smart guy. You know this is a setup. Who's been in your ear? Craig doesn't flinch. Calmly, he replies that no one's been in his ear, that he's asking the same questions millions of Americans want answered. And then, he asks the question, the one that changes everything. Can you name one time in the past year when you've admitted you were wrong about something? Just one? The studio falls silent. Even the crew, usually immune to on-air tension, pause to watch. This isn't about policy or polling anymore. It's about ego, accountability. The one thing Trump never gives ground on. Trump stares at Craig for a long beat. His jaw tightens. Then he speaks, but not to answer. Instead, he attacks. He questions Craig's credentials, mentions diversity initiatives, suggests Craig wouldn't have his job without them. The implication is clear and it's ugly. Everyone in the room feels it. Craig waits. Let's Trump finish. Then, in a steady voice, says, "That's not an answer to the question, sir." And that's when it happens. Trump doesn't shout, but his control cracks. His voice rises, sharper, angrier. He starts talking over Craig, accusing him of bias, of ambush tactics, of everything that's wrong with the media. He points at Craig, at the camera, back at Craig again. Craig tries to de-escalate, offers to move on. But Trump's done. He leans forward, unclips his mic. Pop! A sharp burst through the studio speakers. He stands, glares into the camera, and says, "This is why nobody trusts you people." Then he walks off the set. For a moment, the camera lingers on Craig, still seated. You can see him processing what just happened, steady, but clearly running on adrenaline. He exhales, looks into the lens, and says evenly, "We're going to take a quick break." The screen fades to commercial. The break runs for 3 minutes and 40 seconds, an eternity in live television. In the control room, chaos. Producers are shouting through headsets, debating whether to return live, issue a statement, or just pretend nothing happened and cut to the cooking segment. No one knows what to do. Presidents don't just walk off sets, not even the ones who hate the press. Backstage, Trump is still fuming, surrounded by Secret Service and aides trying to calm him down. His press secretary urges him to pivot, to turn it into a story about media bias and ambush journalism. But Trump isn't listening. He wants affirmation. He wants everyone to say he was right, that Craig crossed a line. Meanwhile, back on set, Craig hasn't moved from his chair. Savannah Guthrie and Hoda Kotb rush over during the break, checking in quietly. He tells them he's fine, but his hands are trembling, not from fear, but from the aftershock of adrenaline. He knows what just happened will follow him forever. Half the country will call him a hero, the other half a traitor. There's no middle ground anymore. 30 seconds to air, the stage manager calls. Craig straightens his notes, even though he won't use them. Savannah and Hoda return to their spots. The lights go up. Craig looks into the camera, voice steady but resolute. "We're back. As you just saw, President Trump has decided to end our interview. We want to be clear about what happened. We ask questions we believe are important for the American people to hear answered. The president disagreed with our approach and chose to leave. We respect his right to do that. It's a careful statement. Professional, balanced, deliberate. But then Craig does something unexpected. He doesn't move on. Instead, he continues. Calmly, methodically, he walks viewers through what just happened, revisiting a few of the questions, showing brief clips, providing context. Not to embarrass Trump, but to show that the questions were fair, factual, and based on the public record. It's quiet, composed, and devastatingly effective. And while the network scrambles to recover on air, something else is unfolding behind the scenes. Trump hasn't actually left the building. He's still backstage, pacing, fuming, watching the live broadcast on a monitor. And with every passing second, he's getting angrier. Because Craig isn't backing down. He isn't apologizing. He's standing by his words, calmly, confidently. And in Trump's world, that's not something you let slide. His team is urging him to leave, to get in the motorcade, to let the comms department handle the fallout. But Trump has never been one to walk away from a fight, especially not one that's being televised live to millions of Americans. Losing control of the narrative is, to him, worse than losing the argument. So against every piece of advice coming from his staff, he makes a decision that everyone in the room instantly knows is a mistake. He's going back on set. Secret Service scrambles to clear a path. Producers get word in their headsets. On set, Craig has already moved on to a lighthearted segment about fall fashion trends when a voice crackles in his earpiece. The president wants to come back. Do we let him? It's a split-second call, and a risky one. From a news standpoint, of course, you let him back. This is history happening in real time. But from a practical standpoint, this could spiral fast. The first round ended with a walk-off. Round 2 could end much worse. Craig pauses and says yes. The control room cuts away from the designer mid-sentence, apologizing as the feed abruptly shifts. And suddenly, to the disbelief of everyone in Studio 1A, Donald Trump is walking back onto the set. The audience gasps. Some people start whispering. A few pull out their phones, breaking the no recording rule. because they know they're witnessing something that will be replayed for decades. Trump sits, but refuses to reattach his mic. A crew member rushes over to help, fumbling with the clip as Trump locks eyes with Craig. There's no small talk this time. No handshake, no smile. Just cold, direct hostility. Craig welcomes him back, trying to steady the moment. "Mr. President, we're glad you decided to continue the conversation." Trump cuts him off instantly. "I didn't come back to continue anything. I came back because I'm not going to let you sit here and lie about what just happened." Craig stays composed. "Sir, I haven't lied about anything. I described what viewers just saw. You asked questions, I asked questions, and then you left. Those are the facts." Trump leans forward, using his height, his presence, his voice, the same tools he's used for decades to dominate a room. "You set me up," he snaps. "You had those questions prepared to make me look bad." This wasn't journalism. This was a hit job. Craig could de-escalate here, offer a diplomatic pivot, but instead he chooses the harder path. He matches Trump's intensity without raising his voice. "Mr. President, every question I asked came from your own words and your own actions. If the truth makes you uncomfortable, that's not my problem. That's yours." The studio freezes. You could hear a pin drop. Even the crew stops moving. Because no one talks to a sitting president like that. It's the kind of moment that can end a career, or define it. Trump's face reddens. He starts to fire back, but Craig keeps going, his tone steady and precise. "You came here to speak to the American people. They're watching right now. Teachers, nurses, construction workers, parents getting their kids ready for school. They don't have time for spin or excuses. They just want to know if their president tells them the truth. And when I ask you a simple question, can you name one time you've admitted being wrong, and you can't answer it? What does that tell them?" Trump rises from his chair again, but this time he doesn't storm off immediately. He points a finger at Craig. "You want to know when I was wrong? I'll tell you. I was wrong to come here. I was wrong to think you'd treat me fairly. I was wrong to give this network the time of day." Craig, without missing a beat. "That's still not an answer, sir. That's just you being angry that I asked the question." At this point, Trump's aides are physically trying to intervene. His press secretary tugs at his sleeve, Secret Service subtly positioning themselves between him and the camera. But Trump shakes them off, turns toward the lens and declares, "This is what the media does. They invite you in, they promise a fair conversation, and then they attack you. They twist your words, take everything out of context, and then act like victims when you call them out. Craig Melvin isn't a journalist. He's an activist with a TV show." Craig stands up now, meeting Trump's glare across the small coffee table between them. "I'm a journalist doing my job, asking questions. If you can't handle questions, maybe you shouldn't be in public office, and that's it. The line that seals it." Trump turns sharply, walks off the set for the second time, and this time, everyone knows he's not coming back. Craig stands still for a moment, watching the doors close behind him. The cameras are still rolling. Millions are still watching. His producers are yelling in his ear to go to commercial, to cut, to breathe. But Craig doesn't. He sits back down, takes a long breath, and looks straight into the camera. "I've been doing this job for a long time. I've interviewed presidents, senators, activists, criminals, and heroes. I've covered hurricanes, elections, trials, and celebrations. But I can honestly say, I've never experienced anything quite like what you just witnessed. And I want to make something perfectly clear. My job isn't to make powerful people comfortable. My job is to ask questions on behalf of the people watching at home. If those questions make someone angry, or make them walk off a set, that doesn't mean the questions were wrong. It means they were necessary. In the control room, chaos. Producers are scrambling, trying to decide whether to stay with Craig, cut to commercial, or bring in the other hosts. But Craig keeps going, and at some point they realize the best thing to do is nothing. Let him speak. "For those who think I was too hard on the president," he continues, "I get it. I respect your opinion. But I'd ask you to think about this. If we can't ask our leaders tough questions, if we can't expect them to answer without walking away, then what kind of democracy are we living in? This isn't about politics. It's not about left or right. It's about accountability. about whether the most powerful person in the country can handle being challenged. Meanwhile, in the motorcade pulling away from Rockefeller Center, Trump is already on his phone, tweeting, reframing, reclaiming the story. Craig Melvin is a third-rate journalist. NBC is fake news. The interview was a setup. Within minutes, hashtags are trending. His supporters amplify every word. Some tweets are supportive, others venomous. By the time the Today Show returns from commercial, Craig Melvin's name is everywhere. Back in the studio, Savannah Guthrie joins Craig on the couch. She's composed but clearly shaken. She asks, sincerely, "How are you feeling?" Craig pauses, exhales, and says, "Honestly, I'm still processing, but I stand by every question I asked. Phones at NBC are lighting up. Advertisers want explanations. Affiliates demand statements. The legal team reviews footage. PR drafts responses. In newsrooms across the country, producers scramble to book analysts who can dissect every second of what just unfolded. But inside Studio 1A, something rare is happening. Two journalists having an unfiltered, unscripted conversation about truth, accountability, and the cost of doing the job right. Savannah asks if Craig expected Trump to walk off. "I thought it was possible," he admits. "I just hoped it wouldn't happen. Would you do anything differently?" she asks. He shakes his head. "No." By now, the footage is looping through the building. Editors are cutting clips. Highlight reels are being built. The shot of Trump tearing off his mic, the standoff across the coffee table, the line, "If the truth makes you uncomfortable, that's not my problem." That's yours. It's already viral. It'll be on t-shirts, mugs, headlines by morning. Craig's phone, still buzzing in his dressing room, is overflowing. Messages from colleagues, friends, family, strangers. Some thank him for his courage. Others accuse him of bias, of disrespect, of grandstanding. Executives debate whether to increase his security detail. The show moves on. A health expert talks about new sleep research. The transition feels surreal. 1 minute, national turmoil. The next, bedtime routines. That's live TV. During a break, Craig finally steps aside. A producer asks quietly, "Are you okay?" He nods. But you can see it in his face, the weight of what just happened, the awareness that this moment will follow him forever. That clip will live online, replayed endlessly, analyzed, politicized, dissected. And yet beneath the exhaustion, there's something else: resolve. He did his job. He asked the hard questions. He didn't flinch when power pushed back. Whether history calls him brave or reckless, hero or villain, Craig Melvin will know one thing for certain: he didn't stay silent. The show goes on. Hoda hosts a segment on holiday gifts. A young musician performs. The weather comes next. Craig sits there, composed and professional as always. But everyone watching can see it. Something in him has changed. You don't go through something like that and come out unchanged. In the hours that follow, the analysis begins. Cable news panels light up. Body language experts, psychologists, and political strategists all take their turns. Everyone has a theory. What Trump was really thinking, what Craig was trying to prove. Some argue Trump walked straight into a setup. Others insist Craig crossed the line from journalism into provocation. The debate spread everywhere, on social media, in office break rooms, over dinner tables. Everyone has an opinion about who was right and who was wrong. But here's what's remarkable. People are talking. People who never tune into morning show interviews are suddenly engaged. Viewers who haven't thought about the press and the presidency in years are debating accountability, access, and the true purpose of journalism. And maybe that's the real story, not that a president stormed off a set, or that a journalist pushed too hard, but that for a few unfiltered minutes on a Tuesday morning, millions of people were actually paying attention. They watched two men have a raw, unscripted argument about things that matter. In a media landscape built on spin, PR-approved statements, and rehearsed sound bites, what happened between Craig Melvin and Donald Trump felt real. The rest of the Today Show finishes without incident. At 9:00 they sign off. The crew starts breaking down the set while Craig walks back to his dressing room. His phone is still buzzing non-stop. Executives want a debrief, his agent wants to talk strategy, and the security team needs to update him on the threats already coming in. But for a moment, he just sits in front of the mirror and exhales. He doesn't know yet that the clip will hit 50 million views in 2 days. that he'll be invited to speak at journalism conferences, that his confrontation will become a case study in media ethics courses. He doesn't know that Trump will attack him for weeks, or that parts of Trump's base will make him a target. He also doesn't know that years from now, when people talk about the press and this presidency, this interview will be one of the moments they still reference. What he knows right now, sitting alone under the dressing room lights, is simple. He asked the questions that needed to be asked. When it came down to backing off or standing firm, he stood firm. Whatever comes next, he can live with that. So, what do you think? Did Craig Melvin do the right thing by pressing Trump that hard, or did he cross a line? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe. Because this story, it's far from over.